But this is an individual who was a senior when I was a freshman, the man who was a veteran when I was a pup, lifter of the year in 2002, all-conference type player 2001, led Nebraska in sacks in 2001, started over the course of 3 years for the Black Shirts, Mr. Demoine Adams. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, appreciate it, my fellow Black Shirt. Excited to spend some time with you. I mean, Husker brothers, all in the same room. I was just coming from my office up in Omaha.
Yeah.
And there was a debate about whose pipes were bigger.
Mm. You were Jake? You were Jake?
No, me and you. And I told them it's the T-shirts that you wear.
Is that what it is?
That makes your pipes.
It's a facade?
It's the T-shirts.
Poke me with a needle. The arms will pop. So here's the deal. You're not wrong. I have a certain type of T-shirt that I like to wear. Okay, I don't like big baggy ones like I did when I was in middle school. I had the big baggy jeans and the holes and the big baggy shirt. I don't like that. I'll never wear skinny jeans. That is just not me.
Yeah.
I need room to move.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to shirts, actually, I'm wearing one that feels really good right now. It's Tackle Cancer by kind of supporting Standing Bear High School, where my kids are going to go and my son currently goes. But when I put this on, I know how I was going to feel this morning. I just saw it for the first time this morning. It's like a little bit of looseness right here, but nice and snug in the arm area, just how I like it, Demo.
So that's interesting because I told my staff I don't feel comfortable with shirts where people have the urge to say, "Oh, you're wearing a medium shirt." But sometimes
I didn't say medium, but go ahead.
But hey, but sometimes we can't help it, right? We can't help it that we still carry on this lifestyle as a football player, which is why we're talking football today.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm glad that you take pride in your medium shirts.
In my medium shirts?
Because I don't. So today my shirt is loose because I cannot help my pipes. I try to hide them, but sometimes.
Why do you hide them?
Because people like to make fun of us, Adam. You know, I think that's their way of saying, I wish I had guns like you. I think that's what they really want to say.
So for me, it's interesting because it's not even about showing off the arms, to be honest with you. I just like how shirts feel like this. I just like how it feels. And the added bonus, you know, it shows off the pipes a little bit. So for me, like I was 303 on June 1st. I was not happy with that in any way, shape, or form. I had not been working out. So can you see my left shoulder? Can you see it? How high it is compared to the right?
Yeah.
I had a bike accident, really bad. I'll spare you the details. I was an idiot on a bicycle. And a really bad bike accident, ended up going to the emergency room, stopped all the traffic, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had been working out really well. This was June 2 years ago. So about 15 months ago, give or take. And I just stopped working out. Number one, my shoulder was jacked up. It looks like it's still jacked up. It feels okay. But I got really fat. I had a bad diet. Life gets busy. I hated life. I hated how, like what the scale was saying on June 1st. I'm 278 today. So I've lost 25 pounds.
Wow.
I have ran 0 miles. I've spent 0 time on a treadmill and 0 time on the elliptical. Jake knows this. I lift 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it's high reps. Like I'm talking stuff that I would have hated when I was playing. Anything over 8 reps and I whined like a little baby. Like it was, I didn't like it. Now, if it's under 15, I don't know what to do with it. So it's all 15 to 30 reps.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I was walking for 90 minutes. Now in this football season, I'm walking for 60. So I'm doing about 4 miles a day.
Yeah.
And so that's what's helped me. I had no idea what was going to happen with the guns. They're not, honestly, they're not what yours are. Okay. I know it's a big deal to you to have the biggest guns in the room. That matters to you. I'm just happy that I feel better. The shoulder looks jacked up, but it actually feels okay. I feel better. And when I look in the mirror, my middle is a little less vomit inducing. So I'm just happy with that.
Hey, and the most important thing is when you walk around, people still comment, Adam, you look like you still got it.
I always appreciate that, by the way. Even if they're lying, it still makes me feel good.
Hey, it's true. Like I'm just thinking of the picture me, you, and Chris Kelsey took.
Yep.
I got so many comments on that picture. Like they all said the same thing. We should be out there right now.
So I'll speak for myself. You speak for yourself. When it comes to me, looks can be deceiving. Okay. I got about 10 plays in me, maybe 15. After that, my 3 days a week walking and not running ain't going to cut it. Do you feel like you could go in and give like 15 to 30 plays? If if you had eligibility?
If I was to play on Saturday, I would be the best third down rusher.
Oh, that's every DN's dream, man.
Third down. Put me in on
Yes.
third down, coach.
Yes.
Yep. And that's it. Third down, I'm guaranteed to put the pressure, get a sack.
Yep. I like it. My redshirt freshman year, I became like a nickel D tackle. I was so happy. I was like, I'm going to play 15 plays a game. I'm not going to get tired. And all I have to do is rush the quarterback. It was the greatest thing ever. Yeah. Actually, I was reading up on you. You did that your redshirt freshman year. You were right behind Van de Bosch, and that was your main gig, your redshirt freshman year.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your time at Nebraska. And now you're doing a lot with teammates. I want to get into that. You have a show every Tuesday here on the Ticket, 5 to 6 p.m., correct?
Yep.
Check that out, ladies and gentlemen. They've been doing a phenomenal job. I'm going to join Demo at some point. But your time at Nebraska, all right, Coach Solich was your coach. You guys closed your career by playing in the Rose Bowl versus Miami, but there's a lot in the middle there. What are some of the things that stick out to you in your memory bank, whatever it may be? Positive, negative, anything in between from your time at Nebraska? Was it 98 to 01?
It was 98 to 02.
02, okay.
So I would say that the one thing that sticks out to me is Charlie McBride. He brought me in around that time where they learned what the secret sauce was to have a successful defense to win championships. And that was that was speed.
Yep.
They could not get past Florida State. Why? Because they had smaller, faster defensive ends.
Mm-hmm.
I was a part of that. And so to this day, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk Husker football. I would love to get your thoughts on how do you feel about the new defensive ends versus rush ends, which is what we were.
Yep.
But that is what stands out to me. Charlie McBride trusted me as a 6'3", 230-pound rush end to get the job done with my speed.
All right, Demoine Adams. We'll talk a little bit Ohio State, Oregon. I might push the majority of that off until tomorrow. I'm going to give fans a quick preview. I'm taking the underdog in this game.
Which is who?
Which is Oregon. Ohio State's about a 3-point favorite.
Really?
But here's a major reason why. I think they're going to play again in the Big Ten championship game. I think Ohio State's going to win that game. I don't see anybody going undefeated in college football this year. And I think this is Ohio State's hiccup, their bugaboo game. Here's the other stat. 8 times this year, a Big Ten team has flown 2 time zones or more to play an opponent. And in those 8 games, the team that has flown 2 time zones or more is 1-7. Who you got? What are your thoughts?
I like Ohio State offense after their last game or two. You know, I too wasn't a big fan of the Ohio State, but when I watched them, I saw both of their electric running backs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going for Ohio State.
So I actually think they're going to win the national championship. I just don't think they're going to win Saturday.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens. Let's get back to what you were bringing up before the break. Because when I first came to Nebraska, when you were here, defensive ends were called rush ends. So the defensive end versus rush end term, I know what that meant to me coming in, but you played under that term longer than I did.
Yes.
What is the difference in your mind between a D end and a rush end?
A rush end is all about perfecting that edge to get to the quarterback. That was your job. Is you don't let anyone get outside of you, but your job is to get to that quarterback to sack him. A defensive end to me is more of a body that's at the end of the line. You know, his job is to get to the quarterback, but that's not his expertise. That's not his craft. For a rush end, you had to perfect that craft, and that's how you got on the field. I think that's the difference. And I would say our defensive ends are doing a great job, but the rush ends, that was the perfection of getting to the quarterback. And that is why we were always the best defense in the country.
Dude, you are the epitome of what I think of when I think of a rush end too, by the way. Speed, coming off the edge, attacking, getting into the backfield and penetrating. Like that's what I think of when I think of a rush end. It's like literally Demoine Adams. Okay. It's a compliment, right? You're like staring a hole in me. That's a compliment.
But
he's like staring at me. I'm like, that's a good thing, man.
But also, the cool thing is guys like you, Jay Moore, Chris Kelsey, Kyle Van der Bosch, we all could run a 4-5. I mean, just think about that. We could all run a 4-5. I mean, so talk about your height, your size, running a 4-5. Man, I'm glad that I didn't have to block you on kickoff when you were redshirt freshman and sophomore. But It was about the speed. And I think that's the scary thing when you look at NFL players compared to college. Now, Oregon,
Mhm.
I do like their defensive ends. I don't know what they call them, but they're like your size and they bring the speed.
Mhm.
And so there's nothing wrong with the formula that the Huskers have right now. But there is something to say about the name Rush Ends.
I think it sets a tone. Like before I ever stepped foot on campus, I kind of knew what was expected of me.
Yeah.
And then I had guys like you, Chris Kelsey, Trevor Johnson was a junior. I guess Bernard was a leader. He was one of my guys. I don't know if he was a leader at that point in time yet. He kind of took that leadership role the next year more when you and Chris were graduated and gone. Justin Smith, the DN from Texas that you came in with as well. I actually slept on his couch for 2 weeks before I ever got to go into the dorms. All right. But talking about the Black Shirts now, they're playing really good football, top 15 defense in the country.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier this week, we played 24 quarters of football this year. They played 22 really good quarters of football. Okay. And so my question for you, looking at the defensive end spot, because that's what they are in a 3-3-5 defense.
Yeah.
Okay. When you're watching the DNs, because I don't want to say their job is to take on double teams, because you see Ty and Nash and these other guys, Jamari Butler, penetrating into the backfield. I mean, Ty is tied for the team lead in sacks. So it's obviously possible. But what's the biggest difference between what they're asked to do now in the 3-3-5 versus even what I was asked to do, which was more of a 4-3, although there was some under elements, which kind of turned it into a little bit different job description for me. I always went to the tight end side, so there was wonderfully more double teams for me versus being a rush in like when you guys were here.
So I'm going to say this without making it come out as controversial. The difference between today versus back then, defensive ends are getting the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, we were trained to get the job won.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Explain. I think I know what that means, but explain it to me. Help me out.
If I'm lined up against an offensive tackle, it's not just to rush and to play patty cake. No, we're going to use our hands. We're going to swim move. We're going to grab. Like our job was to dominate, to have a motor. And every time I look at the defense, I'm looking for that motor. They're doing a great job, but it's that motor that we had, Adam. It's to get the job won. It's that me versus me. I'm going to beat me, and that is going to allow me to beat whoever is in front of me, a tight end, a tackle. I would say that's the difference. They're getting the job done.
I see what you're saying. It makes sense.
But we would get the job won.
So how I take that, and it makes sense to me, certain guys are on the field and they're going to do their job. Certain guys are on the field and they're going to make a difference.
They're going to make a difference.
That's what you're saying.
They're going to go above and beyond. And regardless if it's third, fourth quarter, regardless if they're tired, no, that motor is always going until the clock is at 0.
When you were here, you're doing 9-on-7 drills every day versus the O-line, 1-on-1 pass rush. Who was the toughest O-lineman you had to go against during your time here in practice?
Richie Incognito.
He was Incognito. A pup then too. He's like a freshman then.
You know, to this day, as much as he was one of the nastiest and always would hold and do stupid stuff.
Yes, he did. I can confirm that.
I mean, I can't help but to respect the guy because he had an incredible NFL career. He was 6'6'1". Like he held his own. I mean, every one of us would get into a fight with him, but he would always come back. And Richie Incognito, out of all of the guys, 6'6'1", whatever it was, I respect the guy.
So most people are familiar with Richie, but Richie, I went against him more than anybody in my career. 3 years here at Nebraska. All right. He was the left tackle. I was the right end. And then I became the strong side end. 3 years in St. Louis till he got kicked off the team there. And then he went elsewhere and multiple times he was kicked off the team. But by the end of the day, he had played over 15 years in the NFL, 4-time Pro Bowler. And all 4 of those Pro Bowls were after his 10th year in the NFL, after the whole bullying scandal. He had to, and he put himself in that hole, but he had to dig himself out of that bullying scandal hole. Yep. And he still made 4 Pro Bowls after that. And here's what I would say, because Richie, very polarizing guy. I know him as well as anybody how many snaps I went against him? Probably a few thousand. I don't know. Okay. I wish we had a little bit more of that now on our current line. Not all the penalties, but they sometimes go hand in hand. It's hard to shut it down if you're that intense.
Yeah.
Would you take, I don't want to say a little bit more of that because that's obvious. Would you take 5 Richies knowing how they're going to play and the good and bad that comes with that? And I'm talking about personal foul penalties that are going to hurt the team possibly at inopportune times. Would you take them?
Yes, because when I think of offensive linemen back in the day, to me, they were kind of nasty.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
they would sit in a cold tub and have their dip and spit and just like, man, what are you guys doing?
Yep.
But they were nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take nasty Richie Incognitos any day.
Here's something else about Richie. He started at a center position at Nebraska. He started at left tackle, and then he played 15 plus years as a guard.
Wow.
How many offensive linemen can say they've done that?
No.
Past high school? Not many.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that I don't know if this has ever been talked about. When I first got on campus, you were one of the first guys I met. You were one of the guys I looked up to. You, Chris, Justin, Trevor. Okay. I immediately discovered O linemen and D linemen. I don't know if this has ever been said publicly. I'm just going to say it. They all wore the Nebraska uniform. But I'm not going to say they were all the best of friends when practice was over. And I learned that very, very quickly. Is that fair to say?
It is. I mean, because even after a tough practice, especially on Wednesdays, when number 1 offense goes against number 2 on the goal line, I mean, like the friction, like would still carry over into the locker room. I mean, like there were fights in the locker room because just the adrenaline. And so I think that's what made us great on Saturdays, because we practiced like we would play a game.
I remember one time Richie got mad at me during practice, and I saw him like the next day. We're just walking by each other in the hallway. It's pretty obvious he's pissed at me. And I was always taught you never start a fight, but you never back down either.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching him because this is Richie. I'm like, is he gonna like throw hands? Is he gonna do it? And the one thing, he would do it while you're facing him. He's not that guy that's going to hit you from the back. He's not that guy that's going to back down based on who you are. I watched him after you and Chris had left. Within 2 years, I think it was the next year, within 1 year, he had gotten in a fight with all 11 defensive players. The secondary, the linebackers. There was one practice that was him versus all 4 D linemen that started for about a solid 5 seconds before the O lineman came in to help him. And it was him on 4. And I tell you what, I know he was labeled as a bully. To me, a bully is someone who picks on people who are weaker and backs down when someone hits them in the face. No, that wasn't him. Yep. He'd pick on you if you were weaker, stronger, bigger, smaller, more of you, less of you, big name, no name. He didn't care. I always respected that.
Yeah, and you know, I think he brought the best out of defensive players. Like he brought the best out of me.
For sure.
And so to this day, you know, I don't know where Richie is, but I got nothing but love and respect for him, especially as a freshman being a senior. I mean, like he really brought the worst out of us, which brought the best out of us.
Just so everyone knows, he did not attack me in the hallway that day. He gave me one of the dirtiest looks I've ever gotten. But we actually had, because we had just gotten in a fight the previous practice. And so we actually had a lot of respect for each other after that. There was one time in the league, I was sick in a particular game, and I wasn't ready for the pulling guard to hit me. And he put me on my back. He put his hand down and helped me up. I about fell over. I've never seen him do that. All right, Demo, I want to thank you for taking the time to join me. Again, check out Demo's show. What's the official name?
Teammates Timeout with Demo and Ash every Tuesday from 5 to 6.